Still, hey, everybody, welcome to Because Cannabis, episode 21, July 4th edition, holiday edition. Hey, Dustin Kava, thank you for joining us once again. Friday, 4:20 p.m., so you know where you have to be, or at least where you need to get your notification because you subscribed to the channel below. That's when a brand new episode, brand new, 21 straight weeks of brand new Because Cannabis episodes on the Wayward Media channel, Wayward.media, our home production company, Dustin Kava, myself, Anthony Trav, looking to bring you some new great content as well. So definitely check us out socially. Meet, WM, MEET, WM, MEET, WM, anywhere. Got to up that social game. I know we talk about that every week. Maybe week 21 will be the week that we started off. It is Because Cannabis. It is Friday. Dustin Kava, always as wonderful to see you. Me and you. Terrible English to start today. You and I have not seen each other for 21 straight weeks because we've had a variety of things, but we should, and I think we had a great episode 20 with Alex Huska of Whole Plant, and Organic Plus brands. A really great episode for number 20. So got a lot of great guests coming up, Dustin, for 22, 23, 24. So 21, let's take a moment. Sometimes you don't want to do it. Most of the times I don't want to do it. But here we are since, I should have remembered the date, 21 straight weeks, Because Cannabis has been on Friday on our YouTube channel. How's that make you feel, man?
I would definitely, the word I want to say, inspired, I think. I would have to say that in the last 7 years, this has probably been the hardest year for me. And there's something about consistency of a good thing that can do great things for a person. And I think I really needed this. I needed to hear the conversations from a lot of the people that we've interviewed. I really needed to, there's certain levels to be even more inspired than I already was, and even just to maybe think about things in the future a little bit differently. And the last 20 weeks have really made a huge difference in me. I'm not sure what I would be without it right now, actually, even though it's so small. 10 people watch a week or 14 people watch a week. It really doesn't matter. It's just this act of consistency of a good thing.
It is interesting. We kind of started and we're still working on, and, we talked about this often in multiple of the past 20 episodes thus far that have aired on Wayward Media's Because Cannabis podcast. By the way, I know we're on video here on YouTube, but don't forget socially, what am I talking about? Audio wise, check us out anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, iPlay, Google Play, iTunes. I'm all over the board today, Dustin. Clearly not my best talking week, but you can see some of the other better ones that I've had in the past 20 episodes. We started this and we're still working on developing our brand, putting together our production company. We got some meetings coming up, people talking to people. You never know what'll happen, but we didn't really plan on this, right? We didn't really plan on this. And I think sometimes, and maybe, as we talk about some of the headlines happening around the 4th of July, this week, upcoming weekend, the holiday weekend, got some news we'll talk about today, some headlines, talk a little infused barbecue sauce, 4th of July sales figures. We didn't plan on this at all, Dustin. We didn't think about this. This became a thing to do. And of all those conversations, this has been the constant. This has been the constant every single week. That is there. This has been the thing that continues to get the most work, continues to have the most growth. Obviously, all these other things are happening around it. But this was unplanned, but happy. It is a happy thing. It is something I look forward to, having these conversations. It can be invigorating. We talked to some great guests before, got a ton of great guests coming up. It's exciting to see, and it is it's something that I expect to do every week now, right? Like I have to do it. It's become habitual. It's just not something I planned on. And so that part is unusual for me. I think we're still adjusting to it. But it is a pleasant surprise, right? Of all the things we talked about, this was a little tiny thing that, poof, it's the constant. It's the one that gets the most growth.
I mean, to put it in perspective, there was hundreds and hundreds of hours focused on at least 5 other brands under the wing. And what ended up happening was the one that came in 9 months later and, had, now I'm not going to say the least amount of thought put towards it, but the least amount of planned ahead thought put
Especially
towards it.
initial thought, for sure.
Yeah. And it just like, yeah, exactly what you said. And I think there's also something that's like, even though the gym feels good after you've done it, getting to the gym every Friday or whenever your schedule is, that initial, I would say that, there's half of these episodes, 2 hours before the show, there is not necessarily anxiety, but there is that like, oh, I got to do something.
Yeah.
But then once you get into it, once the words start coming out, once you start hearing it, it's this, the endorphins, the serotonin starts flowing and you're like, you know what? This is good. I'm so thankful that I actually did this and got myself to that point. But that's not to say, just like anything else, every week can still be a struggle, even if it's a good thing. But it's amazing where we're at.
It is pretty amazing. And I'm curious if anyone's listening there, would appreciate in the comments below, let us know. Do you like the shows more? And let's, just like any child, you love them all, but there may be one you secretly like a little more. Do you like the shows where we get together and chit chat and shoot the proverbial shit and catch up on news and headlines? Or do you like the variety of guests and interviews? It's kind of a loaded question. I think we both like learning, but they're two. Maybe let's talk about this. They're two very distinct style of shows. So let's talk maybe just prep and mindset in what your life is like, or thinking about an interview show versus this, a casual show, a catch-up show, a news and headlines chat show. What's the vibe, or how do you feel about each of those, I guess, separately, and maybe which one do you like doing more?
I like to establish value, and to me, I get the most value out of the interviews. And what's funny about that is I think I'm actually the least stressed out when we do interviews, as opposed when we do more of like a news show. And I don't know what that is, because I read 10,000 articles a month of news and I live and breathe all these things that I'm passionate about. But, it's the conversations with someone else or these people that are doing big things that I think consistently inspire me. And to me, that's just so much easier. It's hard to, when you think about the news and when you think about current events, you have the whole range of emotions coming at you from every direction. I mean, there just isn't a positive cannabis news site in the same way. I mean, you're getting negative outcomes, positive outcomes, you're getting where it's going, and I think when we do the interviews, I'm not going to say they're more positive, but I think they have more doing in it. It talks about more action. It talks about, about more of the steps it takes for success. And to me, it's more looking forward than looking in the past than what a news show would be.
I feel, I understand completely. They are two very different animals. The news and headlines, we both read a lot of news. A lot of it is for these shows, like to break the fourth wall, just kind of thinking about it, like, hey, I saw this. I think we can talk about it. Let's try to find a couple that lump together, put together a show. Today we're going to talk some news and we're going to talk some holiday 4th of July stuff. Boom. Find some articles, have some conversation. We are chatty enough fellas. We know each other well enough so we can continue and talk for an hour. The prep and then just the thought process behind the interviews is different. And I'd like to think of them as thus far, we haven't had any antagonistic type style. They're very celebratory, right? We try to celebrate. We do get their opinions on news articles, but they're celebratory. They're gatherings, right? They're just trying to talk about people and learning from people. And I think we're both excited by new ventures and excited by people thinking outside the box, excited about people finding a niche ancillary little squeezy tiny crevice to crawl into and be like, hey, I'm going to do Alan Katz and do really cannabis themed weddings, right? Or I'm going to be an Alex Huska, or I'm going to be a T-Dog and I'm going to make graphic art, all these different people who, or I just recently rewatched, because I shared it with the Cleveland School of Cannabis for a session they do there, the Mend documentary. So I watched part of that episode, right? And I forgot about learning from them and their journey and, and what they went through and then making the film. We have all these different people who are because of cannabis, the name of the show, because of cannabis, have found their way to us and have found a help other people in their life, have found a way to improve their lives, have found a way to improve other lives. So I think that part has been some of the most exciting things, but they are very different animals when it comes to doing an interview show and doing a solo show, or doing a show where it's just the two of us. Sometimes when it's just the two of us, as you can tell by Dustin's camera right now that's going in and out, we lost Dustin for a second. Sometimes we've had this happen 2 or 3 times. I love the fact, Dustin, and you'll hear this when you get back, technical issues be damned. That's how we roll. We do 60 minutes straight. Some say we should edit, and I'm sure down below in the comments, you're going to say you probably should edit a lot more of this. But when you have issues, life is full of lemons, and we are lemonade drinking motherfuckers, Dustin.
That's right,
so
man.
when it happens, I think you just came back. You're on a different camera.
I am. I have the backup camera now.
You got to go, right? I'm rocking a camera here, but if it worst case scenario, or we'll do the laptop cam, we'll work on AirPods, whatever it takes to get the audio across. We like our fancy setups, but if nothing else, that was a lot of talk in the stall for you. If nothing else, this is what we are. So let's get into it, though, a little bit, Dustin. Let's talk a little bit of some of our show themes, right? Holiday season, 4th of July. First, let me get this started. Where does the 4th of July? This is Friday, July 1st that this show is going live. I'm not sure when you're listening to it. Maybe it's been a couple of weeks after that, but we're recording this show Friday, 4:20 p.m., July 1st, 2022. A couple of days away from July 4th. Dustin, give me, first of all, holiday rankings. Where does July 4th fit in your lexicon? And I don't need a numbers type thing, though. If you do have a favorite holiday, maybe you're a big Arbor Day guy, I'm not sure, let me know. But where does July 4th, does it matter for you? Do you like the fireworks? Talk to me all things Independence Day. Go. And Bill Pullman and Will Smith. Go.
You know what? It's probably it's up there. It's in the
really
top.
Up there.
Yeah. But I would say that what's funny is I tend to celebrate 4th of July months and months earlier because essentially
you have your own independence.
Okay, yes, and there's a reason. And the reason is because Thunder over Louisville. And have you ever heard of Thunder over Louisville?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Well, Thunder over Louisville happens to, if I can remember correctly, I believe it is the initial start off to the Kentucky Derby. Okay. But what is it? It's essentially a celebration between multiple cities and the Kentucky Derby. And what they do, you got Cincinnati and Louisville. Okay. And the bridges that crossed in between them. There's a bunch of them. Okay. They shut down at least one of the bridges, if not, I think 2. And then they have multiple barges. And essentially, they put on the largest fireworks display in the world. And that's not just like, the longest, the most money spent. I am saying the absolute most pinnacle amount
Capital
of
THE.
So much so that they record it in April or whenever it is, and then they play it on 4th of July on all the news networks for the fireworks display. Wow. So the fireworks display that you see on the 4th of July is not from that day or that night. It is from months and months prior. But essentially, if you can imagine this, picture it's an hour and a half long show, but picture the first 45 minutes is a finale for the entire 45 minutes. So whatever finale you have ever seen of any other fireworks show, it is that for 40 minutes. Okay. And then the finale of that show is every single finale of fireworks that you've ever seen in your entire life, no matter how old you are, combined into one for the next 10 minutes. And it is just the most insane amount of, independence blowing off fucking shit that you can ever imagine. And it truly is something to behold. I drive down there. It's 6 hours to get down there. You spend all day on the hot sun with 45,000 people waiting on the riverfront areas. And you're just, it's just something else. It's a whole different, it's something that I would love that the kids are finally at the age when they're ready. And I think it's just something that they have to see, even though I think it's going to ruin every fireworks display from there on out for them. So, it's just one of those things.
Wow,
but yeah, my 4th comes in July. or
I
April.
did not know any of that. That is fascinating to learn. I also, as much as we agree on a lot of things, Dustin, I find that we finally have a very argumentative stance that we can have a little talking heads debate on here, as it
Ooh,
were. I am completely anti-firework. I'm just
really?
anti-firework by nature. First off, we should say consume cannabis and play with fireworks carefully, please. And that is part of the reason. But I'm not anti-firework, but I am as a whole, as I've gotten older, less enthused about fireworks. My parents used to take me to a lot of fireworks, in our downtown area. Mine was Akron, Ohio, when we watched the show. A couple 100,000 people or something. Ironically, never, not ironically, it's a poor use, much like Alanis Morissette. Oddly enough, I have a very vivid memory. We used to go to Cincinnati for some relatives every other year, and it was always around July 4th. And once we were coming back from something unaware, in WEBN, which is the big giant Cincinnati rock and roll station, puts on a monster of a show. We got stuck on a bridge, ironically enough, there is the proper use, of during a 4th of July, actual 4th of July fireworks show from the WEBN does this rock and roll big thing. We got stuck on a bridge many, many years ago in Cincinnati, Ohio, through that. But as I've gotten older, and maybe because my kids are more sensitive to sound and such, but I do not that I don't enjoy it. It's fun to watch, I guess. I don't appreciate it. Here's my thought. When I hear a fireworks show start, I go, well, they got to run out sometime. Until apparently your show. Normally about 15, 20 minutes, especially the average backyard person, they can't afford more than about 10 minutes of good fireworks. So even when it starts off terrible, they're going to run out of money, because eventually they go off very quickly. I'm anti-fireworks. Not my jam, not my thing. I don't know where I rank July 4th as a holiday. I like the food part, so we'll talk some infused barbecue sauce in a minute. But I am, as a whole, not a big 4th of July person. That said, I'm curious, back in the Inhalables days, Inhalables _ on Instagram. Check out inhalables.com. We love them. Dustin, co-founder. On the Inhalables side, July 4th, because I got some stats on national sales. I'll bring those up when you start talking. July 4th on Inhalables, what was business like? Was it a busy day? Let's do that sales-wise, holiday-wise. How does July 4th in the cannabis accessory business and the smoke shop accessory business for tobacco use only in some states? In the smoke shop tobacco business, how is July 4th as a sales here for you? And then I'll show you some national figures here in a second.
Okay. I think if we were selling consumables, it would be different. In the store, it is pretty busy because our store was 11 to 11. So I would say from 11 to about 3:30, it was quite busy, but it was all papers. It was like our day to dish out blunt wraps and papers, not a lot of larger glass purchases. And then after 5 o'clock, it was pretty much dead enough that, usually the cops were out enough and, DUI checkpoints and shit were everywhere in our area that we just tended to clock out early that day. One of the very rare holidays that we actually do. So I don't ever remember it being a killer sales. Now, if I was, a dispensary or something, that's different. I feel like it should jump about 22 to 25% this year in some capacity for those guys.
Yeah, no, this is from a report from BDSA, which is a pretty popular analytics company. They do a lot of cannabis-based analytics and such. So they take a look and predict it, and they have a statement here from this article that says that the cannabis industry appears to be recession-proof. I'm going to show you an article in about 30 minutes, Dustin, that says exactly the opposite. You talk about positive and negatives. I have an article that says exactly the opposite of what this one does. But what I wanted to show you was, so you write in the dispensary side, right, in the consumable side, whether it's flower, different edibles and whatnot, in the state of California, the day, or I should say the Friday preceding Independence Day, that's today. Son, that right now is today, July 1st. Right now in California, here's what we know is happening. Shitload of people are buying legal weed. That's what we know is happening right now, because the Friday before Independence Day is the highest daily dollar sale for any day in the month, and sales are 30% higher than the daily average for all of July 2021. So we're going to see some pretty big numbers into there. We see beverage brands having a huge increase, 25% sales just in the last quarter, according to this. And then you've seen, once again, a shift. And this is where the other thing that they talk about a lot. And so this is where I'm curious. Well, and I don't even know this. Do you drink at all? Do you drink alcohol? Or are you like Rastafarian lifestyle?
You know what? I have a 6-pack in the fridge that tends to sit for about 5 months. So mostly it's for guests, and I only drink about 2-3 a year.
Celebrating early, Dustin. We're having an early morning. Not early morning, it's afternoon. It's 4:20 somewhere. Afternoon beverage beer. I still enjoy the beverage, but I've met a few people who rock the only cannabis lifestyle. And in many of our Dank Tank pitches at the Cleveland School of Cannabis, a lot of people look for, in the very same thing the end article talks about, that alternative to alcohol. So let me ask you this. Even if you don't drink a lot, you understand the popularity of alcohol and those things and see bars. Do you really think that many people use cannabis as a alternative, or do you think a lot of it use it in addition? What do you think do you feel like that stat? I always feel like the stat is thrown out, but I don't know if my gut believes it.
I think it's a load of shit.
Thank you. Okay, well, I feel better. I was wording it carefully. You just did not. You're like, here's how it should be worded.
There's something about it that seems like it's just a news article to them, because in normal day-to-day life, people don't fucking talk about that or like that. They don't go to the party and be like, sorry, bro, I'm only on cannabis today. I'm not mixing my like that shit doesn't happen. And these articles are a bunch of nonsense with it. What it is a bunch of people trying to make sense of the numbers increases. And it makes sense that there would be an increase in, certain things around that. I think a cannabis drink is a hell of a lot easier to keep on the low when there's children around at a 4th of July party with the family. I think, there's a lot of stuff that makes sense, but no, it's nonsense.
I agree. So I'm sure on the consumable side, it makes perfect sense that sales are going to increase before a holiday. I don't know if everyone uses it as an alternative. I think a lot of people use it in addition or whatever. There are some people who don't, right? I think that is a smaller percentage than the news articles, much like I think most things make it out to be. Let me ask you this. In terms of food, because I do want to get to there. I had an article, but I lost it. So we'll just move on from there. There was an article about infused barbecue sauces and pairings and things like that when it comes to your barbecue and such. First off, what's your kind of cookout food? Where do you go on the grill? Are you a grill master? And do you feel like you need to infuse your barbecue sauce with cannabis, or can you just light a joint and smoke it and just enjoy some Sweet Baby Ray's or whatever you buy over the counter?
Yeah,
right? It almost seems like too fancy, too complicated.
Exactly. I'm more of there's a group of 4 adults that tend to walk behind the shed a couple times during the party, and that seems to be the mix. It's like, oh, let's look at the topsoil over here.
Very vivid image and I'm sorry, that is a very real image in my life. Because, I'm on the DL for the most part. Obviously, I'm open with it, but I have respectable boundaries with children. I just have, I think we're both that same way, right? There's a respectable boundary. It should not be around young kids, in my opinion. So yes, I go behind the shed. It's all I can think about is like
my shed has 2 doors, so you can walk in the one and shut it and be like, oh, let's check out this tractor, and then you just open up the back door and walk right out the back. So it's definitely, to me, it's the place. It's the safeguard. But I feel like with infusions, there's just not a lot of regulation in this. I have a hard time regulating myself with infusions to know where I'm at, where it's going to be in 3 hours, what the whole timing situation for myself. And so infusing my food seems like it just seems a little bit more complicated than just the shed.
Yeah, right. Sometimes it is. That said, how are you on the grill? What's your grill specialty? Are you the burger flipper or the burger eater? Where do you go?
I'm the burger eater.
Burger eater?
Yeah, I'm usually the guy bartering websites for burgers. Don't worry.
That also is a very real image. Total of behind the scenes that I don't think a lot of people get, but that's 100% true statement that I've never seen, but I don't doubt in the slightest. Yeah, I think I'm not a big pairing guy. I mean, I do think I kind of actually, ironically, I'll drink lighter, fruitier beers in the summer and more stouty, robust beers in the winter. And I have, more sativa energetic in the day and more indica leaning in the night. But that's about as far as my pairing goes. I've never, and maybe I'm just not sophisticated enough. When we have our Gangier, Zach Samo up here, Zach Simcoe coming up in a few weeks. Maybe he can help understand the terpenes, but I've never been like, we're having, a barbecue sauce tonight. I need to get some limon and myrcene terpene product to make sure it really, now it sounds ridiculous as we say it, but there are people who will make, livelihoods on trying to pair terpene profiles with food profiles, but it also seems silly because I don't know if I have a purple kush or if I have a Tropicana or if whatever it is. It's not going to affect the taste of my burger. It's just, or my ribs or my wings.
Well,
it's just not, right?
I don't know if it was the 10 years of smoking cigarettes before now, or what, but I have like 50% the sense of smell of what a normal person has. And so that also includes a lack of ability to differentiate taste. And like, to me, I'm not, you could probably piss in my burger and I wouldn't know the difference. I'd be like, oh, that's about 40% what a burger tastes like, And so I don't have the sophistication of Zach would be like just profound to me. My brain is not comprehending the ability to differentiate palates or certain flavors or profiles down the chain and not be like, 30 seconds in, you're going to get a hint of this. And then 16 seconds after that, you're going to have this. And it's like to have that ability to be that, I don't know what the word is.
It's like in touch with the plant-based. I mean, to be able
exactly.
to consume it and say, I think I can tell you what type of soil this was grown in. That's messed up. That's almost like creepy.
Yeah, that's superhuman powers there.
Yes.
That's like you got Superman flying over the building, and then you have this guy who can taste the metal. I'm like, oh, that came from South Africa's mining operation, and get the superheroes to the location. It's a valid power.
But a little much, but unnecessary. But like a lot of things, it's unnecessary. You know what is necessary? Let me ask you this, Dustin. I wanted to talk a little bit. We'll transition. That's a hard segue, but I want to move on a little bit from our random talk because I got a few things I wanted to talk to you about. Both of us are big into employee welfare, taking care of people. I have a question for you, though. Two questions. Tipper, how do you fall on tipping? Are you Steve Buscemi in Reservoir Dogs and you just don't fucking tip?
35%.
All right, so big tipper, big baller.
I will never ever go under 25.
All right, let me ask you this. You go to the Starbucks, you go to the Subway, you go to somewhere where tips aren't normally expected, 15%. But they have the tip cup. Do you 15%. Toss $1 or $2 into it?
Every time. I have
Every
to.
time.
Every single time. Every single time. I have to.
Well, I think when you do that, I'm sure you hope that money ends up going back to the employees. But we have a case here, just came out from MJ Biz Daily, a new article that talks about in the state of Massachusetts, a retailer of a dispensary retailer had that tip jar, right? That employee tip jar out in front. But that retailer, to the tune of $33,000, was withholding the tips. They weren't actually withholding the tips. They were giving them out, as you see here, in management's discretion, kind of, or in store credit. So basically, they took the tips and said, well, now I'll slowly disperse these over time. And as the employees got a hold of it, right, they understood Massachusetts state law saying that they had to be there. But I always worry about that, about the tip cup at the random places. I like to tip in such, and I'm glad that these employees knew the law. I'm glad that these employees kind of got what was due to them, and now they have to go back and pay $33,000. You know that this location is going to have a bit of a stain on it, right? A Glassdoor negative reviews out the wazoo for their treatment of employees. But I always wonder about the tip cup. That's one of those things that I haven't quite settled on. I like to tip. I believe in tipping. I give the delivery drivers, the Uber dudes, the DoorDash people, give them love. It's the tip cup, though, where I tend to draw the line. Am I being a stooge here? Is it me?
Yeah.
Because I worry about shit like this. Because I worry about stuff like this, like who takes that tip cup?
It doesn't happen in that way for most of it just doesn't. I would say, how about this? When I think of tips, I want to cry. I really get emotional because I ran the store for years and we had a customer who, as an owner, I thought I shouldn't take tips. It's my fucking store, right?
Yes.
My customer service is a representation that I own this. Same thing with my business partner and stuff like that. We had a customer come in and demand it. And this was a man that I respected. This is a man that had given us a lot of business, had brought a ton of people into the store. And it was he demanded it. And I was so against it for 2 months that he was demanding it. And finally he said, listen, I'm bringing in a large tip jar for you guys. If it's not on the table in the next week, I swear to God, I'm never shopping with you again. Straight up. And again, this is like a real big morality thing with me, which was like, this is wrong to do. This is so outside of what an owner should be doing in the first place, is putting something like that up there. There was a real negative connotation to me. And a week later, I had this 95-year-old lady walk into my door. And, you know, just a really old lady come in, could barely make it to the end of the end of the door, my register was at the furthest point of the store. You had to walk 1,200 feet to get to my register. And this lady barely was making her way into my store. And I ran up to her and I was like, ma'am, you know, can I just bring this stuff to you? Can I get a chair here? And can you just let's cater. You don't have to come all the way to the back to do whatever you got to do. You could have called me. I would have brought her from the car. And she just kind of ignored me and walked up to the end by the register and was like, I'm just making sure that tip jar is there, and walked right back out of my store. Okay. And, you know, like he sent a spy in to make sure, you know. And here's the deal with that. Why this story matters, why this made a difference, is you fast forward 5 months and now we have Christmas. This is Joe and I. We have never in the history of the company ever had money before our Christmas sale for our Christmas presents for those kids. Never. And we would have to wait for that sale. And then Joe and I would take whatever we could from that. And we would have 36 hours to do all of our Christmas shopping, to just do it. And you know what, dude? Those tips calculated 2 times more than what Joe and I ever were able to do for Christmas presents. And we had money for Christmas presents 2-3 weeks ahead of time. And it changed everything. It changed everything. So many customers didn't give a fuck that we own the place. They would give above and beyond. If they spent $10, they gave $4. If they spent $100, they put in a $20. It was so consistent. It made such a difference to the families that it was such a blessing that I almost refused to accept for myself. And to me, the tips matter, whether you know it or not, whether that cup is there, whether a company may or may not be taking it. If they don't, I know what it was like to get a couple $100 at the end of that month, and what it did for me, and how much relief it actually gave me, and what looked like such a small thing for that customer was such a huge thing when you factor them all together. And so from that moment on, from those days on, I never, ever gave under 30%. It's just, it could mean anything to that. It could truly mean presents for Christmas or not. And I don't know, it's bigger to than just some morality thing to me, or whether, you know, it just, I know the difference. And so, yeah, I'm a big tipper.
All right, I'll put the dollar in the damn cup. Jesus. How can you not put a dollar in the cup after that long speech, people? That passion and emotion. If you are on our video feed right now, if you're on the Wayward Media YouTube channel,
sweating
you have
because of it.
subscribed. Dustin is sweating. He might be crying. A lot is happening. If you listen on audio, I understand. But if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube feed, because Cannabis Wayward Media, this... right, I guess it's over that way. This is what you want to see, Dustin. Wow. That was impassioned. And man, I got to put the dollar in the cup. Damn it. I feel bad. I have a relative who was a server at a restaurant and who now tips a ridiculous amount, like every time, because she understands it. I am curious, though, as an owner of a business, where do you fall on the internet argument sometimes that, you know, to eliminate tipping, we should just pay servers a livable wage, whatever that number is. That's an impossible number to determine. But let's say that. Should servers be paid more and have tipping be removed, or in general, and take away the tip cup thing, you know, that aside. But in the service industry, which is especially the waiters, waitresses, bartenders, they get paid less. They're falling under weird federal guidelines, employment status to get paid less to work under minimum wage. Where do you fall in that argument? Should we pay servers more a standard hourly wage, or is the tip enough offset? Because sometimes you can make some serious bank on that restaurant, a good tip night. I've been a waiter for a bit. I know what it's like.
I think it needs to be both. I mean, the average 1-bedroom apartment in our shitty little town with a car and insurance and food, in that you need to make 45, 50 G's a year. You need to make 45 grand a year to be able to sustain that in any capacity and not feel stressed about every single paycheck. And so, no, I don't, if it means that they end up making $65,000 a year and they were bringing burgers to a bunch of assholes at a bar, it's worth it to me. And to me, there is something to be said about a daily cash stipend. Some people, you never know when something is going to come in and stipend your check. You never know when your water heater is going to go out. You never know when your kid's going to have a school trip that ended up costing $300 and you didn't really see that coming. You never know you just never know a lot of these things. And to me, a daily cash thing and situations like that can just, again, they can make or break families. And if one person is able to bring in a bunch of tips every day for the family and one person is able to bring in the large bill money at the end of the month, I think every single dollar in every single moment matters to every single person. And I am not someone to look at someone and say, oh, you're making more money than me and you're just giving me burgers. And it's like, fucking, you did it, man. You're 10 times smarter than me at that point, because I work fucking hard, 65 hours a week. And if you're making more than me, I just want to jack you off and ask you how the hell you did it, because I work really hard. And I just think that the average wage income gap between people who own companies and people who fucking work for those people is so insurmountably huge that, yeah, I want these employees to take it all.
I am with you on that. I am a fan of kind of like the Reddit anti-work thread, which is terrible name branding wise, but just that the concept of it, of standing up for what you should get, right? And not working for ridiculous amounts. I think I've come to, I know whether it's aging or spending the last 4 or 5 years kind of exploring midlife crisis, whatever it is, I am definitely on that side. And also being in kind of the management side, retail, especially, for quite some time, and then shifting into it. God, they are, I think a lot about the staff shortages. I was just at a resort, not a resort. That's a very, very bad representation. I was not at a resort at all. I was at a Ohio State Park lodge, which is the farthest thing from a resort. But I was out for a week, and they have massive staffing issues everywhere, right? And so in this place, imagine where it's hard to get employees to commute to work. Imagine where it takes about 8 minutes just from the time you enter the park to get to anything else. So add on 8 minutes on top of whatever drive. And by the way, we're in a very rural area, so the amount of potential employees is extremely low already, and it's a ridiculous drive. And then this is the whole thing I could think about this whole week I was there, the amount of steps an average employee must take. I was averaging about 25,000 steps a day just to get to and from. You're walking all around. You know how many steps those employees must get every day? But they had massive staff shortages, which resulted in some, less than stellar issues. Nothing terrible, but just not up to what you would want maybe at that fancy resort. But I think about, when we talked about this already in another episode, the minimum wage job is now more, the Amazons, which has benefits. So why are you going to do this fast food? And we have thought about these people who make our food that we eat, that get paid scraps, and also expect them to be fucking culinary chefs at the same point. Right. That's a weird thing. I'm perfectly okay if my McDonald's burger looks weird and doesn't, is fairly edible, sometimes cold, because I get it, right? It's just a human issue. It's not McDonald's. It's not Ronald McDonald's fault. It's just that human, poorly trained. Can you breathe? You can work. Like, that's where it's at right now with these places. So I think there is a giant discrepancy. And then you look at the CEOs and upper management of a fast food chain and probably raking in millions in bonuses each year because they eliminated napkin count per customer, right? So it's messed up on that regard. Something that may affect employees soon. We had a big change, Dustin, in cultivation taxation, right? We've talked a little bit about taxation on the show before, but just today, July 1st, 2022, the state of California has signed the trailer bill. They is part of their 22-23 budget. And with this, they're going to eliminate the current state cultivation tax and cap the excise tax at 15% for at least 3 years into this, which is going to make cultivation companies more money, make the state less money, right? So I'm curious on when you think about this, right? And so what we're going to do, once again, cut down the taxation that cultivators have to pay the state, cap the excise tax at 15% on the cultivation side for that. But it's going to put a lot more money into the cultivators aspect, take more money from the state. How do you feel about that? Giving money back to the owners, right? Back to the people. We don't know if that money is going to be disseminated down to the employees. Probably not.
And that's what I was going to say. The bulk of it is...
Maybe some places. I'm just curious if you think this is a big thing. This is another article from MJ Biz Daily. Just breaking news. I mean, literally today, Friday, July 1st, 2022, they signed this law into enactment. Do you like this? Do you like the states kind of giving money back to the cultivators? I mean, California, $7 billion last year. Like, where do you sit on that?
Okay, let's scroll down a little bit. I need to see one more piece of this puzzle before I have this conversation. And that's pretty much it. Okay.
Yeah,
so let's
pretty
talk
much
about
the
this.
article.
So
I have one more
great.
here. You start talking. I have another article on this I'll bring up while you're talking.
Let's talk about excise taxes. Let's talk about taxes in general like that. So we're talking about a reduction in a percentage at my end of the year taxes, but cultivators are still across the board unable to write off anything. So let's, like at this point, if you're going to deny me 90% of the things that actually cut down my taxes, and then I have to do everything in this unnormal business sense. I can't write off my fuel. I can't write off my electricity. I can't write off my soil. I can't write off my employee stuff. I can't write off anything. I'm growing all of this at whatever margins. I have an insane amount of risk every month if I don't yield what I'm supposed to, or if something happens with a crop, or if someone brings in a parasite, or whatever the notion is, I need to produce every month with an insane amount of stress. And to then be told, at the end of the year, we're definitely going to help you out in taxes. I think it definitely is a good thing. I definitely think it's a beneficial thing at the end. No, I do not believe it will fall into the employee rhetoric, partially because I don't think a lot of these cultivators have gotten themselves out of the holes that they are, have baked themselves in through bad decisions through the initial growth. And so I think when you get those compensations, you end up just fixing the shit that you fucked up from the past anyways. And that got fucked up from 7 years worth of not being able to write off most of the things you normally would, So like, it's this round and round thing where I'm not sure it was the right way to go about it if you actually want to give these guys relief, but I do think it helps in some way.
It probably does help. All right, Dustin, we're kind of, you're all getting fired up about finances, and I know that you like that. So let's talk a little bit about this. We've hinted in a previous article, that maybe cannabis is recession-proof. So as we bring up this article, and you want to talk a little bit about recession, a little bit about the industry. So let's state some facts. 2019, right? Let me bring the screen down because it's going to bother me. 2019, cannabis beginning to trend down. 2018 into 2019 saw the first time since 2012 the decrease in investment dollars, people starting to get frustrated with the lack of legalization, and it began to see for the first time in third and fourth quarters of 19 a dip in some of the sales. May 2020, COVID. Cannabis deemed essential business in every single state stays open. 2020, third and fourth quarter, boo! You want to talk about fireworks for an hour and a half straight? Like we're talking grand finale, third and fourth quarter of 2020. That trend kind of continued into 2021, but we saw third and fourth quarter 19 down, third and fourth quarter 20, 21 stagnant. Plateau, right? About the same as 2021. Now, we're digging into predicting as we're heading into Q3, Q4 of 2022. So the first quarter of this year, it's been okay, right? They've had some good sales. 420 was a big number. We just talked a little bit about the prediction of what that July 4th sales could bring. But financially, right, the other thing that happened as part of 2020 COVID was y'all, me all, you all, we got a lot of free money. So a lot of free money, and a lot of you spend it on weed, right? And so let's be real, that kind of those stipends that we were given, the stimulation money, what was it called? Stimulus money that we were getting there is happening. But on the flip side of that, and a lot of people are saying that after the free money is gone, we're seeing a huge rise in pricing. Gasoline's obviously out the door. We have a potential financial recession being predicted by a lot of industry experts. And so there's another article from MJ Biz Daily. We're big MJ Biz Daily people today. We don't always go there, but today they're hooking us up with a lot of great news. Thank you, MJ Biz Daily. Visit mjbizdaily.com. We'll put a link to them down below. Is talking about a potential of the recession. And one of their biggest points is inflation, which tends to curb consumer purchases, and then, talking about the lack of progress. They throw out some of the other newsier stuff that other people say. Well, we talk about limited licenses, which all is a bunch of rigmarole, as I kind of predict. So there's some articles out there. This is just one of many right now talking about the upcoming recession, how it's going to affect the cannabis industry. Dustin, I know it's something you think about a lot. So do you think cannabis right now, Q3, man, tough talking day for me. Q3, Q4 cannabis, how are we going to do? Like, what is this upcoming recession? How do you think it's going to affect our industry? And then just more.
Okay. I think that people get surprised at things that do well in recessions because they're assuming a different status of people gave the money. So how do I say this? I was listening to an awesome article about strippers and using strippers to see if you're in a recession or not.
Okay. All right. I think I know where you're going, but okay.
So it's that idea that if the dark areas of life are the things that do well in recession, then obviously strippers should do better during recession months. And the truth is no. What ends up happening is you'd be a heck of a lot more surprised to see that your money gets trickled in smaller amounts by larger people, as opposed to one guy walking in and dropping $2,000 on a couple dances in a night because he's a big CEO of a multi-successful company that's, he's making millions of dollars. There's this different movement of money within the economy during bad times. So when I think of cannabis, no, I think that maybe the provisional guys are going to be the ones that are better off, only because they get the retail dollars and they can still, they're not working in a world where they have a year and a half worth of investment on their product in order to sell it. The way I see a grower is it costs a lot of money to even get to the stage of to where your seeds are sprouting and shit. The soil costs money. The electricity costs money. The staff to do it costs a lot of money. Those things are hit hardest by inflation, hit hardest in recessions. And so when I think of supply chains, I don't think recessions are ever good for supply chains. And at the end of the day, cannabis is part of an agricultural supply chain. And to me, that's, yes, consuming goes up, but no, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but I think everyone else but a dispensary is going to come out under, not above.
I would agree with you. I think that's a great way to look at it. It is going to be probably very good for the store or the place that sells the product, right? Because what you're having, right, just like anything, when you have agriculture or a processor, the people who take that cannabis plant, turn it into, all sorts of fancy beverages and candies and cookies and all those things, right? Those are people who are taking the raw ingredients, they're taking the time and effort to turn them into something. And then the profit, a lot of times, there's a profit each chain from the sale of cannabis flower to the processor, from the sale of processed goods to the dispensary, and obviously on the sale of the dispensary to you. You being the customer, and you, Dustin, are the one who sees and probably feels the recession, because you're going to probably pay more at the dispensary, for the dispensary probably paying less because the other companies are trying to lower costs to compete with other places. So I think that is a maybe this comes from working in inhalables and working in the ancillary business, a very honest way that I don't see out there. I don't see that news out there a lot when we see numbers booming. The cultivators are struggling. In some states, they're begging for tax deductions and things, and owners obviously want to make more money. But in the end, it's the store. It's the location that is the sales aspect of it, the person that's selling it to you, who probably is going to do well, probably not going to pass it on to their employees. I think we're cynical in that nature. But it's the industry as a whole. I don't think it's going to do as great. I think this shift in agriculture, the more legalization that's happening, the rise of all these other cannabinoids that we've obviously talked about, Alex Huska from Organic Plus, the exploitation of the different Delta 8s, Delta 10s, the THC from hemp, all these things, that is just making it harder and harder and harder and harder to make a profit. It's making bottom line management more and more difficult for cultivators, for processors, and it's making dispensaries cash money, right? It's making them a lot more money. So it's interesting. Is the industry then going to say quarter 3, quarter 4, your prediction then is dispensaries do well? So we get all these articles about how the industry is rocking and booming because sales are out the door. That's like saying Top Gun Maverick grossed more than Top Gun because tickets cost 85 times more than they cost back in 1984. Right? I mean, of course it's going to make more money because it costs like $15 versus about $4 a ticket in 1986 or whenever Top Gun came out.
Exactly. And I also think that, I work in the cannabis industry building websites for corporations within the cannabis industry. And guess who's not fucking calling right now? The large corporations that are cultivators and that are transportation guys, and the other guys down the chain are having a harder time putting marketing dollars ahead of just operating costs. And so, no, I already see it hitting. I know that's exactly what's going to end up happening in terms of the figures and numbers. And yeah, I mean, I can feel you're right. You're 100% right. I think we're going to see it, but we're going to see a lot of that good news. Florida
that is the problem.
$150 million in the last 3 months. And it's like, you guys, did you realize that the other ancillary businesses are at a $500 million loss this year, as opposed to the sales numbers increasing? Because they're two different things. Just because Florida sold double the amount of cannabis within that state that year doesn't mean that operating costs and that the amount of profit is more. It just doesn't mean that. I mean, there could have been more regulations. It could have been weather that affected things in a lot different way. There could just be so many other things that affect the profit margins at the end of the year for a large corporation like that than just provisional dollars.
I think it's good to keep that. And I don't think it's a negative or a pessimistic way to look at it. I think it's good to keep that realistic and honest thought process. We talk a lot about dollars. We talk a lot about finances. We're into that. We talk about marketing and the way it works. We talk about that at the Cleveland School of Cannabis. We have these, that's what we have. We have these students who are excited to work in the industry. They see, just like any media, right? They see the headlines that say booming, 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 and they want to get into growing. But the reality is, I don't know if that's the industry that's booming, but it does obviously make a lot of money because people are always trying to get into it. Anything that someone's always trying to do and willing to pay a lot of dollars to do probably is going to make at least them money. Is it going to make you money? Probably right. Not. It's going to make them money who owns it. But to do the retail side of it, that seems to be the place. And right now I think about all these other, I'm going to say this, poorly run smoke shops, not like inhalables, inhalables.com, inhalables_, but there's some poorly run smoke shops and maybe some mass chain smoke shops who are making a lot of money selling low grade but expensive Delta 8 and these other cannabinoids because they can, and they're the ones, the retail store, who's making a lot of money from that. Because
they're the ones also not educating. So if you can imagine,
those staying, especially the bigger, chainier shops that are selling it.
I can't tell you how many times I've sat into the smoke shop to get my vape and hear the guy next to me going, "Whoa, look at that THC, man. That's it, dude. That's legitimate. It's right there. It's it." And it's like, and you see that person across the counter who's about to ring him out, just stare at him. Not tell him anything different, not correct him, not anything. Just be like, it is. And so it's this whole, they work through falsitivities. The dispensaries work through having their hands tied behind their back in terms of educating. And it's so funny. It's like the ones who want to educate can't, and the ones who should be educating refuse to. It's so funny.
I think I just want 60 minutes of you doing impressions. You have a variety of impressions you broke out today for a variety of people. I am very shocked, not shocked by that, but just even breaking them out. You're like a regular Jim Carrey out here rocking the thing. All right, let's end on some positive news to wrap up our show. Just a little bit of positive news. If you're in the state of Virginia, Virginia's medical program, it's been very, very difficult for you to get a license card in the state of Virginia, but effective today, July 1st, 2022, a brand new law goes into place. So now you don't have to get your card issued by the Virginia Board of Pharmacy.
Yes.
You just need to get a written certificate from a registered practitioner. Done. So easy.
This was the law already ahead of this. So what I meant by that is this is actually a law stating what they said to do in the first place. Okay. And you see that registered practitioner?
Yes.
There was no clarification of what a registered practitioner was for the last 2 years, meaning I could go to my mom who does Reiki and she could be like, yeah, you need it, and write me a note. And I legitimately was covered. So now this is giving me a legitimate piece of paper that they can print off and file with anybody else in the state. And there is still no clarification of what a registered practitioner is.
Well, that's going to make it even easier because right now I guess it took about 6 months from this time to start the process. So if you're in the state of Virginia, good for you.
Ease of access of cards matter. They matter. They matter for a state's numbers to be up. They matter for old people and the access to what they got to do and for their healing. It's a release a barrier of steps to get healing, and it matters. And with something like this, could you imagine going to your family doctor and the guy you're comfortable with, the person who you've been with for 60 years is the guy who can write that card for you? Unbelievable.
Yes.
That's huge.
It would feel a lot better. It'll be exciting for them. I've met a few people through my classes from Virginia, and they were excited about this taking place because they have been trying to get their card for about a year now and haven't been able to get it. So, and it's been kind of like Ohio's, it's a more controlled, very expensive. So this will lower that cost. More medical patients, more ease of access in the state of Virginia. Good for you, Virginians, when it comes to cannabis. Dustin, what are you doing this July 4th, 2022? Any plans this weekend? Anything big going on? You've already seen your major fireworks show. Are you a backyard fireworks guy? I guess let's end there. Do you shoot off fireworks at all? Do you do even those little like smoke tanks or nothing, huh?
I don't blow up money. If I smoke my money, I don't blow it up.
All right. Well, have you ever been to a fireworks warehouse style store?
Yes, I have, man. And you know what? I don't know how every year, all year, they can have buy one, get two for free. It's the craziest business model when I think about it to go, so you marked up that 600% in order to get me my, it's a weird thing.
Awesome. I went, my brother lives in Cincinnati and they're big into the fireworks in that area. And so we do some fireworks shows, and he took me one time in Indiana to this massive. I mean, we're talking like two Sam's Clubs put next to each other. People walking around with 2 or 3 carts because one cart pretty much holds one of these giant all-in-one box units that has like 100 fireworks. We're talking people spending, and they have like levels, like spend 100, get this free, right? Spend 200, spend 1,000. Basically, spend 1,000, you get like $1,000 free kits, which I don't get. But the amount of people walking around this place, the amount of people, money, the amount of dollar bills being exchanged for something that is done. Now, I get that people, I know how you said, I think about this. The same argument could be said against the smoke argument, but at least I get 2 hours versus 5 seconds. So at least I get that, so give me that a little bit. Long-term usage, there is some medicinal benefits that none from fireworks. They're exciting for a moment, but I agree with you. I'm not a big fireworks, obviously no there. So I'm not a big fireworks in person thing. And I'm very thankful, and this sounds really snobby, that I live where they don't set off a lot of fireworks. I used to. We moved recently from an area that did a ton. And where my brother lives, it's like a backyard professional fireworks show. That's why we go there every year. We're not going this year because we did our resort vacation. But it's where we go every year, and it is a crazy, like you can't nonstop professional level fireworks for about 6 straight hours from every single neighbor that goes all in. And all I do, it's funny you mentioned that, because all I do is sit and look at my wife and say, that is thousands upon thousands of dollars that are going back to earth, thousands of dollars, which is just like, it hurts my heart to see that. So
the
I
family,
agree. Less fireworks, more cannabis.
Hard in on it, so I would say 20 years ago, the family would probably be spending about $1,500 collectively together on something. And the crate would be a wooden box that would sit in a garage for 4 months. And you as a kid would be sneaking bottle rockets through the cracks of it to try to use them in the meantime, But no, my family was a bunch of idiots. They always enjoyed the bottle rocket wars and shooting Roman candles at each other. And to me, I'm like, I can't.
Those are poor decisions. Don't do that at home, kids. I've done it in the past. It's a terrible idea. I would never encourage you to do it again. Smoke your cannabis, though. Don't smoke your fireworks. Dustin, July 4th, happy Independence Day to you. Thanks for joining us. Everyone, thank you for joining us here. Another episode of Because Cannabis. Brand new episodes every single Friday, 4:20 p.m. We got an interview show coming up next week. Great guest. Be sure to check us out. Yes. 4:20 p.m. every Friday on Because Cannabis. Wayward Media, wayward.media, our website for our company. Socially, at MeetWM, MEETWM. Shows available on audio as well. iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Shortly after these episodes air, this should be out by the end of July. Dustin, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. One of those interview shows that we talked about at the beginning. Episode number 22 coming your way. Hopefully another 22 more coming in the next 22 weeks. All right, Dustin. Take care, man. We'll talk to you soon.
You too. Thanks, man.